We often hear the advice to just get moving. But what if the key to overcoming mental roadblocks, fear, and anxiety really does start with moving your body? Today, we're tackling the intersection of physical movement, mental well being, and overcoming the very real challenges of laziness, complacency, and fear. Let's explore why it's okay to not be okay, but not okay to do nothing about it.
You're listening to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast.
Welcome back to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast. I'm Audrey Cannata, operations lead here at the Digital Growth Institute. And joining us for today's conversation is James Robert Lay, who many of you know, is a passionate advocate for the mind-body connection and someone who believes that mastery over the body is the first step in mastering your mind. Welcome, James Robert.
Hey, Audrey, it is so good to hang out and talk such an important topic as we are today here.
Yes, this is going to be a good conversation. I'm so glad we're talking about this. As I know, you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. And so I think it's going to be a fun conversation. And before we get into it, what's been going well for you? Let's let our listeners or viewers know.
It's actually right in line with the topic today about taking action, starting, getting going, moving, just do something. I came back recently from an entrepreneurial coaching program that I'm in. It was out in California. We all got together. Delina was out there with me. We came back. And as you know, you've been very much a part of this over the past couple of weeks. We have been moving. We have been taking action. And I think the thing is when you take action, you cannot be afraid. The fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, the FUD, the anxiety, that comes in when you are still. That comes in when you stop moving.
Yep. Yeah. It's like I tell myself a lot, don't think about it, just do.
We actually talked about that a while back on the podcast. The idea of thoughts versus thinking.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good book. Thoughts create, thinking destroys. And I think we have both, experienced this where we've talked a lot and we've gone round and round and had ideas and we've sat around and mapped them out and drawn them out and really didn't get anywhere. And in the last few weeks, we really have just put our foots down and we're moving. And what I love about it is how easy it has been. And I think you made the comment earlier, it's been fun. And I think that's when you're on the right path is when things are happening easily. Not saying you're not working hard, but things are just fitting into place.
It has been fun. And there's definitely an energy to this. And I know there are some who are watching and listening and energy. Oh, that's so woo-woo. Let me tell you something. I used to be like that. And that was a self-limiting belief that I had, which honestly, it kept me stuck. It kept me trapped. It did not allow me to progress. It did not allow me to grow. It did not allow me to take action. And I'm so grateful for the work that Colby Corp has been doing on the subject of energy. I saw recently that they put out some perspective. We should be focusing not on time management, but on energy management. Because when we are working within our growth abilities, as I write about in Banking on Change, when we are working within our initiating capabilities, thinking about Colby, our initiating action modes, we're going to have a tremendous amount of energy. It's when we're working in those resistant areas, that's where we start to feel the energy drain. And one of the things that comes to my mind is force versus flow.
Yeah.
We're trying to force something. And if we are, we're going to feel that natural resistance. It's like pushing up against a brick wall. You can be pushing on that wall. give it everything you have, all the effort, all your energy, the wall's not moving. Or you can stop pushing against the wall, hop into the river, for lack of a better analogy, get the current, and you're going to go further, farther, faster because you are in a flow state.
Yeah, I think for me the energy and time management, it's more like cause and effect. You've got to, if you're thinking about time management first, you're not going to get the results. It's your energy is what's going to affect the time, like you said, getting into a flow state. And I think the energy, the force versus flow, that is something I've been so curious about and mindful about just recently, probably in the last few months, is thinking about, what are those things in my life that I'm forcing? And probably some of it's due to just being stubborn. And just, you want something, you work for it, but are you forcing it? And I think being mindful of that and being aware and being able to recognize when you're forcing something and when to just kind of let it be. I don't know.
What was that shift for you? What brought that into your perspective and field of vision to be more mindful of force versus flow?
I think it was, I read something. So I subscribe to the Daily Stoic. I get a lot of Ryan Holiday's emails. And somewhere there was a lesson about persistence and resistance. And it really got me thinking about the difference and trying not to like be persistent, but also know when to resist and know when to just let things be. Um, Realize when you're forcing things and you're going against nature or against where you're supposed to be. And I think it's tricky because it's not about being complacent and waiting for things to come to you, but just recognizing when, you're at the right place at the right time. And this is where things are supposed to be because it's just all clicking. And if you're having to deal with too many restrictions or too many points of friction, that might be a time to look around and think, is this where I'm supposed to be? There's a lot of friction here.
That's interesting that you're surfacing that, because that's where I've been. Um, I've really been questioning my role in this vertical in financial services. It's all I've done. It's all I've known for 22 years.
Yep.
I've been working with banks. I've been working with credit unions to help them surface where blind spots are in their customer journeys that are costing the loans and deposits. And specifically within the last 12, 18, perhaps even 24 months, I have been feeling this level of resistance. I have felt this before in this vertical, going all the way back to 2010, 2011, which, as you and I have talked about many times on this podcast, it led to a dark night of the soul moment for me. Hit rock bottom mentally. I hit rock bottom emotionally. I hit rock bottom relationally. I hit rock bottom spiritually. I hit rock bottom physically. I mean, literally all areas of my life. I mean, financially, financially at the time, I was in a fantastic position, but I was in a horrible place in all of those other areas. And a lot of it was, the business model was an agency. We had the digital agency model. We were building websites and running campaigns and placing ads and sending emails and doing all of this stuff, all of this activity, all of this energy expansion. Not expansion, probably more energy expenditure. But for me personally, I was being met with a lot of resistance and friction because I was saying to these banks and credit unions that were we were building websites for. Like, that's the stupidest idea. Why would you want to do that? Like, we'd get a request, and you probably even remember me just popping off, and I was definitely not as managed with my emotions as I am today, although I can still continue to improve in that area, and I'm thankful for the Stoic writing and the Stoic philosophy, and really trying to be way more balanced. But back then it was like, that's the stupidest thing. Why would they even ask that? And it just would be this like downward negative energy spiral.
Yeah. Well, there was that conflict between, the transactional relationship and just taking orders and getting paid and delivering what they want to actually pushing back and questioning and saying, yeah, we can do that, but that's probably not the best idea.
Well, I guess
And they
because
didn't want to listen.
well, because I give a shit. Like, I
Right.
really care. I really, and I mean, if you think about banking on change, right? Chapter 1, it's the question, the title of chapter 1. Do you care enough for growth? And CARE is an acronym where you have to commit to a cause greater than the present moment. You have to adapt your beliefs, because when you adapt your beliefs, you're going to adapt your behavior. Resiliency is the way. And then the last is the E, is what we're talking about right here. Energy is emotion in motion. Force versus flow. And I guess, like, I've just, for some reason, have been feeling like I've been met with a tremendous amount of resistance over the last 12, 18, 24 months. So I'm starting to question, I'm starting to wonder, I'm starting to ponder. At the same time, I've learned a lot. But both you and I we've taken a tremendous amount of action, specifically within the last couple of weeks with the launch of the Digital Growth Accelerator.
Yeah.
And it's changing the way that we're working with financial brands. So it's going to create a bigger future for us. It's going to create a bigger future for them. It's going to create a bigger future for their account holders. But it is all coming back to this. It's taking action.
It is.
Got to move.
Yeah, you felt stuck. You felt some tension, some friction, some resistance. And so you took action um and you just moved. You just moved forward. And that is really our focus for today's conversation. Is there's a lot of complacency. We've noticed, you've noticed, others in the industry have noticed lack of movement. Why is this so common right now? This dare I say laziness in today's world, today's fast-paced world, for that matter, specifically in this industry.
I think first, what really prefaced this conversation was talking with a prospective financial brand that had shown some interest of entering into the Banking on Digital Growth program. They had hired a new individual. This individual, senior leader, had made a comment about, at the macro level, and this individual has worked within the vertical for 20, 25 years on the technology side, and said something along the lines of, for the most part, he sees people are lazy and they're complacent. And I go, and I'm curious, well, why do you say that? And he went through a litany of experiences. But I guess the truth of the matter is, that's where I've felt the greatest amount of resistance personally, working with financial brands and their teams. So your question is why? And I could go down the path of what I've written about in Banking on Digital Growth and Banking on Change. Well, it's all fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of failure. I think though it's something
I don't,
deeper.
yeah, this is you saying fear. This is the first time where I'm thinking, maybe it's not so much fear. Because I feel like at least when you fear something, you have to give a shit to fear something. Like you kind of have to care, right?
Right.
Um, and I think in some instances, there isn't even that. There isn't even any fear. It's just not caring.
Not caring. Maybe fear, but from a different angle. There's more uncertainty now at a macro level. I mean, you think about it. As of recording in the United States, within less than 30 days, we're going to have an election. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty now more than ever when looking back historically at other elections. There's uncertainty at a global level. We have been measuring this with the Future Growth Index. But when one is uncertain about the future specifically, you have two choices. You take action, you keep moving forward,
Yeah.
or you retreat into the cave of complacency, seeking pseudo safety. Because even though you go into the cave of complacency, seeking solace from the storm, it doesn't mean that you're protected. In fact, you could be more vulnerable in the cave.
Yeah.
Because if you go look around on the floor, light a match. Go look around on the floor of the cave of complacency, and you're going to find the corpses of other brands, other leaders that sought solace from the storms of their time instead of having the courage to come out, keep climbing the mountain, to gain some elevation, to gain some perspective, to see where you've been, look down at where you're at, look ahead at where you could go in the future. But the uncertainty, yeah, there's maybe some fear tied to that. But I really say the deeper thing is when things are tough, when things are hard, as they have been hard, are hard, and will continue to be hard, a lot of people are distracting themselves right now. To
It's
dull.
easier than ever.
It's easier than ever to distract yourself, but you're distracting yourself to dull the pain.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it. I've been there. You have
We
too.
both have.
100% resorted to distractions.
And
To not, yeah.
I'll put them out. I'll put them out because I want to lead with like experience here. Digital distractions
Mm-hmm.
on a variety of levels. I mean, that's one of the reasons I had to take off social media and
Yeah.
email and even an internet browser, the web browser off my phone, because I just couldn't be present.
Yeah.
I couldn't be alone with myself. That
Yeah.
was scary to have to face myself because I didn't like myself because I was stuck in this continuous pattern of bad behavior.
Yeah.
Alcohol. We've talked about that on the podcast.
Yeah. That was my escape.
I remember vividly, and it's like that's why, and I'm so proud of the progress you've made here because when you came back and asked you what would the ideal future look like for you, and you said simply, and it just kind of came out. I don't think you thought about it; it just came out. You're like, I don't want to have to come home and have a glass of wine.
Yeah. Well, and I think the danger with the distractions is not only does it not help, we think it helps at the time, in the moment we think it helps, but it has long-term effects, but also, and this is what I found, is it can actually create a bigger problem, an exponentially bigger problem than what you started with because of the way you chose to distract yourself. Um, when you are, for me, distracting myself from all of the changes going on in my life, all of the things and the drama and being alone and the new dynamics of my family.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got a crutch that's unhealthy like that, it can really start to take its toll in a bad way, in a very bad way, than if you were just to face it head on. And I think that is why the obstacle is the way. I have it sitting right here. If you want a perspective change, get this book, read the opening few chapters where Ryan Holiday talks about like historical examples of people who have really dealt with issues and troubles and challenges and basically, I mean, all of our problems that we have are real. They're real to us. It's our reality, our world. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like, okay, we're just being a bunch of babies, basically. Like, Audrey, so what? So what? You're living by yourself right now. Boo-hoo. Is that the worst thing that could happen? No. Like, get up, get over yourself, get out, make some good choices, deal with it, toughen up, buttercup. And I know I'm making light of it, and some of us do have a lot more serious struggles, and it's not to say that they're not real and important, but it's perspective, and it makes you kind of gives you like, okay, I can get through this. I can get through this. There's a whole lot worse things I could be dealing with.
Yes, there's perspective, but we also have to be mindful of how the mind is naturally built. Our minds are threat detection devices, meaning that we're naturally going to go to the negative.
Yeah.
And being communal creatures and being communal beings, when one goes the negative, what tends to happen? Like, think about a meeting that you might have with your team. If you're not mindful, that meeting can quickly become a bitch fest.
Yep.
Because one problem is spoken, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And then before you know it, the energy in that room is low. Dare I say, even toxic. Growth does not happen at that level. Growth does not happen at whenever we're in the gap.
Bitching. But I think it's okay. Like, it's okay to bitch, and you and I bitch to each other at times, but we know it. Like, we'll walk in and say, I just got to say this. Like, hold on. I know I'm about to go in the gap. Give me 30 seconds. I'm just about to unload some shit on you. And then it's all right. We're good. Thank you for the space. Let's move on. So
Correct.
it's okay. It's
We
not like we can't
create the
have
space.
issues. Right.
And I think because we've created the space, it's expectation too, but we also know the dangers if we A, don't share it, or B, if we share it and then we stay in that space and not let it go.
Yeah.
Because you can share it, not let it go, and keep carrying it with you.
Yeah.
And then what good did you do? So I think that's a very fair point to make, that yeah, it's, once again, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. Once you have
Exactly.
that awareness, and I think about a lot of teams that I've worked with, and we come in and we share our findings, we share our recommendations, and they, for the better part, require some sort of change. Whether that's as simple as changing something on the website from a website secret shopping study that we did, to changing a workflow, a system, a process, to changing even beliefs within a team or within a culture, within an organization about something. Change is required. It's the change that makes people feel uncomfortable, and their level, their ability to adapt is going to directly impact how they move forward, if they move forward at all, or do they choose to stay stuck. But this is something that will loop back around: perspective. In psychology, there's a term, we all know, the perspective of post-traumatic stress. But there's a newer area of study which is being reframed as post-traumatic growth. And back
I
to
love.
but I think that's the key here, right? It's reframing post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. We get to choose how we process and reframe an experience. And back to your point with the obstacle is the way, the story behind that story, for those watching and listening who don't know, that book was inspired by the writings of Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoics in the world, where he wrote, "The impediment to action becomes the path to action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And so I think for a lot of teams and organizations, we do help them surface where blind spots are, where they have gaps, where they have roadblocks. But they're failing to make the commitment to confront the elephant in the room. And even then, when I go and facilitate a team alignment workshop and we're looking at the elephant, we're putting our hands on the elephant, but then it's like I go away.
And yeah.
The elephant's still there, but we're all back, heads down, doing what we always did before.
Yeah. And so this is where I want to introduce this whole mind body connection that I teased in the introduction, because yes, we're saying that movement and action is important, but also just physically moving, bringing the physical, the fitness side, the relationship there, between the two, action, to movement, physical movement. And, you spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs, and they're taking a lot of action, but you know what they also are? Most of them, they're physically active too.
Mm.
What's the connection there?
I mean, if we look out at what's going on at a macro level, where we are today, specifically in the United States, we are not healthier than we were 20 years ago, 30, 50 years ago. And that's at a physical level, that's at a mental level, that's at an emotional level, that's at a financial level. I mean, physically.
And that's factual. I mean, there's numbers
This is not
here.
my
This isn't just
opinion.
opinion.
No, this is not my opinion. I mean, when we look at it, like the fact that 40% of Americans are dealing with obesity right now, that number is predicted to increase to, I think, 50% by 2030. And when you account for those that are struggling and who are then medically overweight, we're up to like 75%. So by 2030, one out of every two people in the United States, adults, have the potential to be obese. That's not healthy. That's taking a toll on your physical well-being. That's taking a toll on your mental well-being. And
Yes.
this does come down to movement.
Yes.
And it all is
And
all interconnected here.
and this is not, a shaming
No.
conversation. This is there is science behind this. I mean, just the thing about physical activity, the endorphins alone, the energy, I mean, it's all interconnected. We're not talking about you appearing healthy,
No.
your appearance, your outward healthiness. This is internal, and it's going to carry over to your professional life.
I know there's some people who are thinking like, how does this have anything to do with like digital
So
growth? It has everything to do with
it's all
digital growth, because that was my thesis writing Banking on Change. I defined exponential growth as when an individual, a team, an organization has the perception that they are growing personally and professionally at the same time. Because what one is dealing with and struggling with personally is going to impact them professionally. And if you're on a team, it's going to impact your team. And if a team is struggling, it's going to impact the organization.
Yeah.
On the flip side, what is one is dealing with professionally is going to impact them personally. And personally, that could be their physical well-being. Once again, this is not about appearance. This is about how you feel as an individual. And if you feel stuck, and if you feel like you are complacent, maybe you are, but it doesn't mean you have to stay that way. Listen, I struggled with some really bad addictions. Really, and it is a shame cycle. I understand. I'm not coming at this like saying like I'm holier than thou. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I will say if there's one thing is, I mean, we keep it pretty real around here. Um, and it certainly is not a pedestal sort of thing at all.
No, and once again, it's because I care. Like I
Yeah.
really sincerely, genuinely care about the people that we're helping and the people that we're working with. But what I'm seeing is when they don't take action, well, why? And that's from a professional side. Could it also be that there's this personal overlap? Where, oh, you can't combine the two worlds. If you don't combine the two worlds, then what kind
The
of
comp-
world are we living in at that point? Like
yeah.
this is work-life integration. Because I think we've been sold a lie with work-life balance. Is we have to integrate the best of ourselves
Right.
into both worlds.
And this is not saying there aren't boundaries. You certainly need to have boundaries. If I'm texting James Robert on a Sunday morning, he's going to be like, what the heck are you doing? Get off your email right now. That's having boundaries. That's having, work, personal integration boundaries. But to say that you support and encourage my exercise, my fitness routine. I mean, it's a core value here. If I'm at the gym, or if I need to hit the gym, you're like, go, get out of here, get it done. Don't care. Because that I'm going to come back better, you know, um, stronger, more energy, and I'm going to be able to give more to our organization because I've taken care of my body first.
And that's work-life integration. You're right. Boundaries are so important for myself, for you, for others that we work with. because if we don't take care of the body, things start to literally fall apart. And once again, I'm speaking from truth. Like, I've dealt with an autoimmune condition going all the way back to my stress, my conflict, my frustration back in 2009, 10, 11. I was diagnosed January of 2010 with ankylosing spondylitis. I mean, we just sent out that email a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't really spoken publicly about this. I'm starting to more and more and more because I think it's important to share, just to share the journey, because I know we're all on a journey, and others, if you're on a journey, if you're dealing with an autoimmune condition, I highly recommend the book, The Body Keeps Score. I recommended it to a CEO the other day at a credit union because he was sharing with me. We were on a call, and just as things typically do, something came up with his personal life. And he was struggling with some pain, chronic pain, debilitating to a degree. And I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? So that opened it up. And I said, listen, have you heard of the book, The Body Keeps Score? He said, no. I said, I highly recommend it because the mind body connection is real. And that's where, when you begin to master the body, you start to master the mind.
Yeah.
You start to master the mind. You can start to master these other areas of life. And that's going to create a positive impact for you as a leader, as a team member, professionally. It's going to create a positive impact personally on your home front as well. Because this comes down to just one word: it's discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Ryan Holiday, title of the book: Discipline is Destiny. Discipline is what differentiates those who dream about doing something and those who are actually doing it.
What would you say to someone who is like, James Robert, this sounds great, wonderful. I believe you. Taking care of the body is important. I get it, but I'm too overwhelmed. I just don't have time. There's just no way I can do this. I am so busy. I mean, from the time I get up and this and that and go to work and kids, I don't have time to take care of myself. So this sounds great and all, but good for you that you have the time to do it, but I don't. Because I've heard that before.
Oh, you have heard that. I think the better question, the one who is better equipped to answer that because of your situation, your life, and you have been asked that question. I think, how do you handle
Okay.
that?
All right. Tables have been turned. I would say number one, getting creative, and just looking at your schedule and when you can possibly fit in a workout. And maybe you can't get to the gym. Maybe you have to do a HIIT workout in your living room. Maybe you got to just go run around the block. But looking at your schedule and here's the thing. It may not sound great, it may not sound ideal, but this is where prioritization comes in, and you got to get really honest and clear about what means the most to you. What's the most important thing to you? Let me tell you, I've cut out, and this is not a high horse thing, but I have cut out so much just extra TV, trash TV. I have had to, not spend as much time socializing because I needed to, I had priorities and health and taking care of my bodies was one of them. So I had to let things go. What are you going to have to let go of in order to make this happen? Financially, I had to make some financial choices to let some things go to afford. For me, I go to F45. We know this, but that's what I need to do to make sure I get it done. Because if I'm working out in my living room, it's not going to happen. So I have made the priority to invest, a decent amount, couple $100 a month to go to F45 because I know I have accountability. I know I have coaching. I know that once I walk in the door, I have no choice but to kick ass because they're going to make sure I do. But I've had to give up other things in my life in order to afford that. I've had to work my schedule around it. So I think it comes down to prioritizing. And you know what? If it's important to you, you're going to make it happen. You're going to figure it out. The rest, probably excuses.
And
I'll just say it.
no, but that's the thing. Call it what it is. It's an excuse. It's an excuse to stay where you're at. It's an excuse not to change. And oh,
I mean,
Audrey.
I'll tell you this one more thing. I will say I drag my kids to the gym with me on the weekends. I've got my kids um, alone most of the time. I am 1-on-2. And you know what? Is it ideal? No. But guess what? It's a priority to me. They come with me. It's a field trip. They go sit at the gym. They've got their books, their entertainment, and we just make it work because we know that that's the best thing. I'm a better mom if I can get to the gym.
That's the thing.
All right.
This is about leveling up all areas of your life, personally and professionally. And it's about letting go of the old so that you can go and create the new. And well, Audrey, that's nice. Glad you got a couple $100 a month. Here, I'm going to add my perspective to this. When COVID shut down the gyms, we canceled our membership. I've never been back to a gym. I've never been healthier now at 43 than I have my entire life for a couple of reasons. Number one, I wake up, I Wim Hof. Wim Hof is a breathing methodology. It does help to connect the mind, the body, calm the mind down. Number two, I go hop in a cold bucket of water.
Yes.
And there's a reason that I do that. It
Mhm.
is painful. It doesn't get easier. It's like 39 degrees. But before I actually had the cold plunge, I was literally filling the bathtub, throwing, gallons or liters of water in the tub and doing it that way. But because that was a way to master the body, to master the mind. And then the third, canceling the gym membership, my wife and I work out with a woman from Ireland. Her name is Caroline Gervin. Google her, YouTube her. We started working out with Caroline back whenever the gym shut down. So this would have been in March of 2020. There was about 15,000 people that were subscribed to her YouTube channel at the time. I think she now has like over 3 million.
Yeah.
She has full
It's good.
6-week, 8-week programs that we
Mhm.
work out in the garage.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to find what works for you. And that's
Correct.
what I mean by getting creative. A Caroline workout for you and Delina in the garage gets the job done. Like you said, you're healthier than ever. So I think it's like, don't give up though. Keep looking for whatever it is. I found what works for me, just
Correct.
kind of on a fluke. I walked in at 45 one day because I had a membership special. And, I've worked out most of my life and that clicked. This also comes back to things, not resisting or not having that friction. Like you find something that clicks that you can stick to and create a routine, or you keep looking, but don't just stop looking.
I think we can sum all of this up with one point. It's re-examining what wealth is to begin with in the first place. Because if we think wealth is just a number in a bank account, we're missing other dimensions of wealth and well-being. I mean, we hear so much about financial wellness. I question, is financial wellness even possible if we're not addressing the physical wellness, the mental wellness, the
Right.
relational wellness?
Yeah. I mean, there's some really financially well off people who are not mentally, healthy, do
Mm-hmm.
not have healthy relationships. Um,
And it's just re-examining beliefs that we have been given over the course of time, that influence culture, whether that be culture at a macro level or going all the way down to the micro, the culture of an organization. And master the body to master the mind, master the mind to master the relationship with money. Like these are the things that are all interconnected. And if you're watching or listening and you work at a financial brand, the question that I have for you, where might there be opportunities to help level up your life, to help level up the lives of those on your team through movement, through activity, physical activity? I know one fintech CEO, Jeffrey Kindle, he goes on what are called walk and talks.
Mm-hmm.
He takes his team on walk and talks. They get up, they get moving, they walk, they talk. And it's through the movement that they're able to literally perceive and see things differently versus just sitting around a table.
Yeah. Oh, and then you throw outdoor, with it, nature, walk and talk in nature.
So maybe that's a very practical takeaway that someone can apply is the next time that you have a one-on-one, the next time that you have even maybe a team meeting, go on a walk and talk. Get up, move, because when you get up and you get going, and when you start moving, that's what creates momentum. That's what creates action. And you will be surprised to see how you begin to break free from certain constraints had you just been sitting and staying in the same exact place day in and day out. Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote the book Willpower Doesn't Work. He talks about the power of the environment and how the environment is far more stronger than what we can perceive.
Yeah.
And so movement creates momentum. Momentum creates progress. Progress compounds over time, which leads to growth, both personally as well as professionally, as well as organizationally.
Wow. This is a great place to wrap up. We covered a lot of ground. And I know we covered a lot of different areas here. But like you said earlier, they are so connected and they are so important to talk about. And we are so passionate about talking about it. So if you're still listening, you're still with us. Thank you. We appreciate you. And I think, to sum it up, I'll bring it back to what I opened this with. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to do nothing about it. So movement, action, literally, physically, build that resilience, that mental resilience to keep moving, overcome challenges, and keep going.
We got your back. You don't have to do this alone. If you need a little bit of a objective external perspective, this is what Banking on Change is really all about. It's about personal growth. It's about professional growth. It's about growing as an individual. It's about growing together as a team. It's about growing together as an organization, because that is what inspires growth externally as well for account holders and the people in the communities that we are serving as financial brands.
Yes, perfectly said. Thank you so much, James Robert. This is good.
Absolutely, Audrey. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.